Welcome to another podcast of One Nation, One Voice. This is your host and visionary, Mr. Eke Ukoumunne. I greet all my Nigerian countrymen, both within Nigeria and obviously countrymen and countrywomen. So don't think when I'm saying countrymen, I'm not also including the women. I am countrymen and countrywomen, both within Nigeria and in the diaspora. And in this particular podcast, I really wanted to look at, before I get told off by my producers, quickly, you can join us on Facebook, Spotify. Obviously, as you know, you're watching on YouTube, and we'll try to be posting some other things on Instagram. And who knows, maybe this year we'll start using TikTok and what's the other one? Twitter. So we'll see how that goes. But I really wanted to look at some of the comments that have been given, not really putting them in a negative light at all. I just really wanted to thank all those who have subscribed and all those that have put comments on the various videos. So if you see me looking down at any point in time, it's because I'm actually reading the comments, and I'm also looking from video to video to see the comments and see if I can best address them. So 2 weeks ago we had a comment from Afripol. It says at Afripol. It says most Nigerians, or an average Nigerian operation, is devoid of tribalism. The problem is the ruling class that weaponize tribe and religion to win election, and in that process, balkanizing the country. I salute this show for your stand. New Nigeria is possible. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Afripol, for your comment. 2 weeks ago, there's quite a few comments I'm trying to address as many as I can in a short period of time. Definitely, new Nigeria is most definitely possible, and with people like yourself and Nigerians like yourself that herald from every part of Nigeria, that a new Nigeria is more than possible. A new Nigeria is more than possible. And to be honest with you, even when I get negative comments, I just take it on the chin, because at the end of the day, for somebody that has been following politics, discussing politics with politicians from a very young age until now, I would say that it's okay that we have a difference of opinion. You know, for me, a difference of opinion doesn't mean anything, right? It's just someone's opinion versus my opinion. It gives us the opportunity to discuss. Who knows, while discussing with somebody that has a negative opinion or a negative statement, there's something that I will learn, and there's something that they may learn, because we're constantly learning as human beings. We'll never stop learning, right? So again, thank you, Afripol, for your comment. So yeah, new Nigeria is definitely possible, without a doubt. I would say that in regards to the ruling class weaponizing tribalism, I do agree, and religion, definitely, I do agree. I do believe that that is their main focus. But then again, I'm not arguing this for them. I really am not. But they're in a very small minority. I mean, I've said this before. I'm not calling on revolution in Nigeria, but if revolution could happen in France and Russia, it could definitely happen in Nigeria, because there's 200 million people, the actual ruling class, or the elite as we'd like to call them, and then include all the security personnel, probably number just over 1 million. And obviously out of the 200 million, or you leave 199 million, let's say, because these are already, estimates of the Nigerian population, then you probably say, if we say 70% at 18 to 35, you could go on. We'll say, you could say at least 140 million could possibly, right, come against that ruling class and against the security personnel. I'm not calling a revolution. I'm just telling you statistically. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you're in that ruling class, what are you there to do? You're there to rule. You're either going to rule righteously. That's why the Bible says, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice, and when the wicked rule, the people groan, right? So what we've seen many a time is we've seen the wicked ruling, right? But to grasp onto power, you're going to use whatever apparatus they can, or for them to grasp on, to hold on to power. They're going to use whatever apparatus they can. But the truth of the matter is that Nigerians haven't really got to that point where we're prepared to look past ourselves as individuals and start to look at ourselves as a unified people that have similar goals and similar ambitions, right? And want to reach those together. So we're not really in that real sense of unity. And that would take us, maybe a certain kind of leader, not joking, I'd say God, but what I'm saying, and people that believe in that. So it does go to my heart though when I hear, even on that Facebook page, when I see comments, positive comments coming from all parts of Nigeria, and to be honest, to be funny enough, and I'm going to say this, and I think it's funny because I said this to you before, I said to people before that I'm an Igbo person, and I've been, by the pro-Biafra movement, I've been labelled pretty much a traitor. You know what, I'm always going to speak the truth. I don't really care, even if there's 1 billion speaking something else. If it's the truth on the right, then I'm going to speak the truth, even if the 1 billion speaking falsehood. I'm not really, I don't have that kind of sheep mentality. I'm not just going to follow something because you come from a particular area in which I come from. So coming back to what you were saying, Afripol, I would say that even though that's true, they do weaponize it, I would still say, is tribalism devoid in most organizations, like what you were saying? You said operations, I presume you said about Nigerian organizations, or to the average Nigerian. On the surface, I would say that's true. On the surface, I would say that's true. Like, if you go out onto the streets in Nigeria, whether you go to, let's say you go into Lagos, which is very cosmopolitan, right? Many different tribes in Lagos, right? Populated Lagos. I would say definitely on the surface that is so true, but I would say underneath the surface, it's not necessarily true. And I think that's the reason why the ruling class find it easy to scratch past the surface and then get people into that point of sentiment. And that's why it's not so difficult. Like, for instance, to give you an example in Nigeria, like, you hear a rumor, the Yorubas are killing the Igbos, yeah? Or vice versa. And without even a thought, many of the time, and these are amongst even educated people that you would say are enlightened. And this can be across any tribe, so I'm just giving an example. And then before you know it, there's a big ruckus. You'll hear Yorubas saying this against the Igbos, or some Igbos saying this about Yorubas, or some Yorubas saying this about Igbos. So it's not always like the all of one particular tribe or this. No, of course not. It's never going to be that way. But I'm just trying to say that they only have to scratch the surface, which means that underneath there must be something simmering which still shows a level of distrust for one tribe against another tribe, right? Whereas I find that Nigerians don't really look at, and this happens all over the world, right? But I'm just giving an example because I'm Nigerian, of course. But they don't really look at each other as individuals, but somehow they look at people as somehow having a collective mindset. Like, it's dangerous to think that way, because I remember when the whole thing with the herdsman crisis came out, it was like all the Fulanese are these violent herdsmen. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. There are some terrorist groups that have infiltrated. There are even some herdsmen that have weapons, But do they represent all Fulanese? Do they represent all the herdsmen that have been just using stick and taking cows from the different parts of Africa into Nigeria and selling their cows at different parts in different parts of Africa, or taking their cows from the north to the south? I won't even get into this whole point of cows. I personally think that we should have a much better system like they have in, other parts of the Western world. Why can't we be using cattle trains? But then at the same time, some things that the West do are good for us. Some things the West do are not necessarily good. Can we adapt it? We could adapt it. Those cows walking up and down is what probably gives them strength and makes them healthy, and they eat the grass. But what I'm saying is we know the problems that can happen from that. Again, I spoke in the last video, desertification. Are we putting the irrigation systems in place in the northern part of Nigeria? I mean, come on, that is a mass agricultural area, right? So are we is the Nigerian government doing what they need to do? I don't necessarily think so. But in answer to your question, Afri, this is what I feel. On the surface, it looks like that. It looks like complete brotherly love. But the truth of the matter is, you scratch the surface, any little issue that arises, and then you start hearing the same tribalistic sentiment that was there post-war, post the Civil War, during the Civil War, and before the Civil War. I posted a video on the Facebook page with Sadona Sokoto speaking about the Igbos at the time, how he saw the Igbos. So if you let the Igbos in, then they'll end up, he'll become a servant, and then he'll end up wanting to be a master of the house and all these sorts of things. So what I'm trying to say is, now, does that mean that everything that Sadona Sokoto said was non-patriotic? No, it doesn't. But I'm just saying to you that on the surface, they look like, everybody looks like, we are free of tribalism, but we need to, once you scratch the surface, I think you'll find that there is some tribalism in their hearts. So that was an answer to your point, Afripol. Then I had also Uka, I don't even know if it's one, Uka Ukoumunne, don't know. So I don't think that's a full name, but maybe broken down. And he wrote, or he or she wrote, what similarities do the Kanuri have in common with Ijaw? How are certain in common with Efik? Let's stop deceiving ourselves in the name of British company called Nigeria. If you live in Nigeria, I bet if I give you a British passport and give you a visa, you're going to be in Britain tomorrow, and you're going to tell me how you love the British, even though you made that statement. Anyway, thanks for your comment, nevertheless. I will say, first of all, and I've said this in the previous videos, and I'll continue to say this in every video, what similarities do all these groups have? Well, we're all human. That should be enough. We're all human. We all breathe. We all sleep. We all drink. We all eat. We have similar goals, right? Income, household, life, safety, stability. These are the things, these are common goals that all humans have. These are the similarities. The type of food that someone eats is not really important, right? What they choose to drink, the clothes that they choose to wear, their religion, their beliefs are not necessarily important if they do not endanger other individuals living in that country. If they do not endanger or hamper the safety of other individuals that live in that country, then live in the country of Nigeria or any other country, then we have to say that they are of no risk to any other group. So what I would say is the similarities between all the ethnic groups in Nigeria is that we are all human beings. And as human beings, we have souls. And those souls like to be happy, prosperous, safe, right? So you could go on and on and on. So that's my answer to you. Now, let me look at some other comments. 18 breaths 66 says, step in right direction. Next, Pan-West African, then Pan-African, in that order. Oh yeah, as you deal with the outside world, you must understand you are black first. I deal with everyone. Like, I mean, from this perspective, I would say that, yeah, I am black. and to be honest, if someone can be proud of being black, I would say that I certainly don't see it as any detriment being black or necessarily being white. I do believe though that a lot of history, and I don't mean black history in terms of like witchcraft and all this sort of nonsense. I'm talking about like black history in terms of, the first university in the world ever was in Mali. The Moors from North Africa, who were actually black, actually were the ones who invaded southern Europe all the way up to France and brought the Turkish baths to the Spanish and many parts of Europe when Europeans were not even bathing. The Africans were teaching them how to bathe. So what I'm trying to say is that, and we could go on and on and on. However, what I will say is that I agree. We have to look. I believe that a strong Nigeria will help to bring about a strong Africa. But again, not Nigerians with that kind of, not with Nigerians with the mindset of like, we are greater than all other African nations, we are better than you, that sort of nonsense, that oppressive kind of mindset. That's not what I'm talking about. But definitely, yeah, Nigeria is still labelled, I suppose, still termed or seen or deemed as being the giant of Africa. So there's no doubt that a united Nigeria forging its own way would help to bring about a stronger West African region, and a stronger West African region, a stronger Africa. And I'm sure that I can say hand on heart that there's some in the West that don't want to see that happen. That's why sometimes when I'm talking to Nigerians, I'm like, listen, while you're still fighting amongst yourselves in these little proxy battles or conflicts, you've got to remember that you do have external enemies, or you have external parties that are not happy and don't want to see a united Nigeria, a united West Africa, a united Africa. So ultimately, you have to start to ask yourselves, are you playing to their tune? Are you supporting that disunity within Nigeria? Or are you going to work against that, or work against their frame of mind, that external frame of mind, and say, okay, let's actually forge a future together? I personally would advocate the latter, which is forging a future together. So I'm going to wrap it up for this episode of this podcast and join you for the next podcast. I'm still going to look at some of the comments because people are actually taking their time, posting some comments, and I've addressed it on the YouTube page, but I'd love to address some of that on just a podcast. So thank you for the comments that I've already read, but I will read some more. And for me, farewell. Again, thank you for subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And for those who have subscribed or are watching this video, if you feel that what I've spoken is truth, please share to many other people. We can really make this movement. On Facebook, we were, and I believe on YouTube we can do the same thing. So Facebook kind of doesn't. Okay, I won't get into that. We'll talk about it in the next video. So from me, your host of One Nation, One Voice, and the visionary of One Nation, One Voice, I'd like to bid all my fellow countrymen and countrywomen, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora, farewell. God bless you, and God bless Nigeria.